DM Contere Part 2. A loud pop heralded the emergence of a struggling alicorn and changeling, the two appearing near one of the Hive's entrances. They grappled with one another before Daybreaker was kicked off. Both recovered quickly and began trading spells. Each one was determined to kill the other, but one already knew the other's resolve was shaken.
Look at you, Celestia. Even at your darkest, it isn't long before you begin to hold back again.
Immortalis taunted, easily deflecting two bolts.
Was it your sister's words, or being faced with Twilight? Both, perhaps? Shut up!
Daybreaker unleashed an inferno towards the Empress, who sank down into a portal and emerged to Daybreaker's right.
That's more like it. But will it last? Who will it be I finally kill? Daybreaker or Celestia?
Daybreaker gave a shout of rage, summoning a large and highly lethal magical blade and attempting to rend the Empress in two. She succeeded in doing just that to a statue, but Immortalis was barely keeping ahead of it.
What would your little ponies think? Do you believe they could ever hold you in such reverence as you are now? The tyrant of the sun.
Daybreaker dispelled her sword and once more tackled the Empress, pinning her to the ground and snapping with her fangs. Immortalis used a huff to hold her at bay, but gasped as Daybreaker's inferno of a mane began to dance its way around her body. The fire seeped through every orifice it could, reaching her innards and beginning to fry each and every single one in what Daybreaker intended to be an excruciating demise.
How does it feel to slowly cook in your own chitin?
Daybreaker snarled, pressing a huff on the Empress's neck.
How does it feel to die? Why do you still talk? I know you could have killed me already.
Immortalis choked out.
Do it. Embrace who you are becoming. Soon,
Daybreaker replied.
But first...
Daybreaker's horn touched Immortalis's, and the alicorn's vision gave way to a distorted field of pulsating orbs. Through Immortalis, Daybreaker was forcing her way into the Hive mind. She didn't stop to take in the sights. She knew she would only have a limited time within the Empress's realm. Searching quickly, she reached out throughout the Hive mind and searched for one very specific presence, and it didn't take her long to find it. One pulsating lavender orb. Twilight's consciousness. Daybreaker practically galloped towards it, placing her long white horn against the orb and forming a connection with it. Whatever she would have done next, it was not to be. Daybreaker was knocked off of the Empress and out of the Hive mind as a blue alicorn was thrown into her, both ponies flailing as they skidded across the ground.
A valiant effort. But alas, you are not Celestia.
Twilight jeered, albeit with a noticeable limp in her step. Luna grunted as she helped herself and her sister up, bruised but not yet beaten. Several fresh cuts being visible along her barrel.
Apologies for the intrusion, sister. It seems the throne room would no longer contain our difficult battle. That wouldn't have been a problem for Nightmare Moon,
Immortalis stated as she too got back up, her horn charging once again. However, her magical aura seemed to sputter out just as it began, and nothing could mask the charring across her body.
I'll never become that monster again. Then it's up to Daybreaker,
Twilight sneered.
Come on then, tyrant of the sun. Strike at us.
Twilight stepped forwards, in front of Immortalis in a way that almost seemed like she was offering her life to Daybreaker, daring her to kill.
Step aside, Twilight,
Daybreaker demanded.
She is my victim, not you. She is a threat to Equestria, is she not?
The battered Empress of the Changelings sneered through her fangs.
No second chances, you said. Do what must be done, and kill her.
Daybreaker's eyes widened, glancing between the two changelings. She began to shake.
Twilight, it's not your fault. You are under her control. Why should it matter? I'm still a threat.
Twilight almost sang.
You've chosen to be Daybreaker. Now prove your commitment. Tia?
Luna warned.
Don't. Do you really think I would?
Daybreaker asked in disbelief.
Kill her so coldly when she could still be saved? My own daughter? That is what Daybreaker would do,
Luna stated.
But not Celestia. So who are you, Tia? Yes, who are you?
Immortalis asked.
Coward or killer?
The alicorn sagged, her rage all but gone.
Coward. Any day.
A bright white flash consumed Daybreaker, wiping the corrupted alicorn away and returning Princess Celestia to view. Well, the Empress could never have predicted Daybreaker. She always predicted that the princess's love for Twilight Sparkle would always win out in the end. She knew it was thanks to Twilight she was always doomed to win the fight. Though the alicorns did not appear to be finished.
Killing you may be necessary, Immortalis, but I should not find joy in it,
Celestia stated, standing up straight and proud once more.
I will not become you, Empress.
Immortalis grunted, a pained grimace on her muzzle.
So you have chosen. Not that it mattered. I was just curious as to what you would choose. Even if you murdered Twilight Sparkle, you were never leaving here alive. We're not out of the fight. Anything but,
Luna objected, her horn flashing an example.
You are battered and broken, Empress. Your chitin is charred and cracked, and I can sense the exhaustion within you. Twilight herself has taken some considerable damage, so how long do you think your thrall can protect you against the both of us? Against the both of you? I can't say I like those odds,
Immortalis admitted, her voice growing into but a weak rasp.
But I always prepare in advance.
And then, all energy seeping out of her, the Empress collapsed where she stood. Time seemed to stop dead. Everything was still. It was as if the very universe itself was trying to process what had just transpired. In but a moment, the princess's task was seemingly completed. The eyes of the two alicorns opened up wide, shock registering on their features. The Empress was completely still, smoke rising up from her lifeless cadaver as Queen Twilight remained completely unmoved. Daybreaker had all but cooked her from the inside out, her internal organs burnt to a mere crisp without hope of recovery. She was well and truly dead. The regalia upon her chest, the one which had caused all that had befallen the ponies and changelings, was equally ravaged, twisted and melted. Its glory had been snuffed out and left to rot. And yet the red glow in Twilight's eyes remained unchanged. And then she laughed a laugh not her own.
What is happening?
Celestia asked in shocked confusion.
It's simple, Princess,
Twilight Sparkle stated in Immortalis' voice, sending a sense of dread deep into the deepest pit of Celestia's soul.
I am the Hive. As long as it exists, I have no need for a simple body. When the swarm is my body.
They didn't need any time to think upon her words. Portals opened up all around them, and then the two alicorns were surrounded by all of the remaining changeling queens.
You ponies are too weak,
Immortalis noted. This time her voice came from Queen Tempora.
Simple creatures who can only feel love and never consume it. Had you been strong enough to strike me within the Hive while you could, instead of reaching out to your beloved Twilight, you may have defeated me. Daybreaker could have ruled forevermore. What kind of vile magic is this?
Luna demanded to know, seething with rage.
One cannot cheat death in such a manner. But I have,
Immortalis retorted, now coming from Queen Cocoon.
You think in small terms. Within the Hive mind, we are all one, and they are all me. The loss of my own form is regrettable, but only a temporary setback. The queens shall be my eyes and voice, and they continue to obey my will. It is why an old enemy of mine chose to use your precious elements over arranging an accident for me. Death is not an obstacle. And yet you are but a ghost in a shell,
Luna rebuked.
What ruler can you be as a disembodied voice? Oh, I am far more than that. I am the will of natural order itself,
Immortalis declared.
But you perhaps make an adequate point. Perhaps I shall insert my mind fully into the next royal to be born from a queen. A fresh start for a fresh era. What do you think, dear Twilight?
Celestia raged at this new development.
You would steal the life of a child? Twilight's child? You are an abomination, Immortalis. Even within the Hive mind, you are not completely invincible. And yet, it ultimately changes nothing. You may have had the upper hoof against us, but against the full might of the gathered queens? I think not.
Queen Twilight Sparkle pointed out in her own voice, her tone mocking.
Empress, on your word.
Celestia and Luna stood firm, knowing what was about to happen. They were surrounded, exhausted, and had no way of escaping. Their enemy all but indestructible. The moment they charged their horns to teleport, they would be struck down. The fight had seemingly been theirs. Immortalis had retained little chance of victory with her powers weakening and the alicorns pressing on. Now, however, the princesses were truly beaten. And then a giant changeling statue almost landed on and crushed several of the changeling queens, all of whom barely scrambled to avoid it. Chaos erupted, and Princess Miyamori Cadenza teleported right next to her fellow alicorns.
I know! I'm not meant to be here! Scold me later!
She stated quickly, her horn charging again.
Kill them!
Immortalis commanded through her proxy. Twilight and a few other changeling queens quickly fired lethal beams of magic at the trio, but by the time they impacted, Cadence's teleport spell had already activated. The alicorns were gone. Immortalis stared at the spot where they had just been through Cocoon's eyes, her soul full of fury at this turn of events. Wordlessly, she had the queens turn back towards the Hive with a command being sent throughout all of her forces. Regroup, and prepare to strike again, while the princesses were weakened. She then departed into the Hive mind to oversee the preparations. However, Queen Twilight Sparkle had to momentarily pause in her tracks. She had heard her Empress's command, and yet, just for a moment, she swore she could feel the presence of another within her mind. And why did that presence seem comforting? Why did it fill her with a sense of hope? Twilight shook her head in confusion, and then went to dutifully carry out her Empress's command. The charred corpse of the Empress was left where it lay, but its former occupant was anything but dead. A blue flash heralded 3 alicorns being violently thrown from a teleportation spell in a flurry of twisted limbs. Cadence had teleported herself and her aunt several times in quick succession to get as far away from the Hive as possible, landing them near the edges of the forest in a small clearing. The clearing in question was calm and, most importantly, free of any and all changelings. Only a few random examples of the local wildlife inhabited the area, several curious eyes watching the intruders as they untangled themselves.
Not our greatest success,
Luna remarked as she got up and shook the dust and grime off of herself.
We succeeded in killing the Empress, only for it to have been a futile effort. She's a most infuriating opponent.
The other 2 alicorns also got back onto their hooves, Cadence turning to face Luna while the eldest walked meekly over to the tree line and thought.
What even happened in there?
Cadence demanded to know.
All I saw was fire and the flashes of your magic and... Auntie Celestia, what did you do?
Luna turned to look at her sister, who had her back facing them. The Princess of the Night's eyes narrowed.
My sister lost control of herself. Or do you deny it, Celestia?
Celestia didn't answer for a moment, before sighing without turning to look at the others.
No. There is no denying what I almost became. What I did briefly become. But what was that?
Cadence reiterated.
Daybreaker,
Celestia responded.
Everything I could be, and shouldn't be. An alicorn who would eliminate all those she considered even the slightest bit of threat. Right down to a homeless fool stealing a loaf of bread. And would do so filled with a psychotic glee. A mare who would have cut out the undesirables and turned the world into what more resembles an autonomous machine than a civilization. Controlled and without freedom. All in the name of some perverted form of peace.
Celestia grimaced, but wasn't finished yet.
A mare who... No. I would have kept those I loved close to the point of being prisoners, just to keep them safe, under the grand illusion that they were free of danger while not seeing that I myself was such a danger. That sounds nothing like you,
Cadence stated.
You love the freedom we grant our ponies. The freedom to be who they want. To create grand arts and tear-inducing poems. To live a life worth living. Maybe,
Celestia responded quietly.
But right then and there, it all paled in comparison to saving Twilight by any means. And likewise keeping her safe by any means. So the ends justified the means?
Luna asked.
Even if it meant harming her? Why do you think I stopped?
Celestia snapped before sagging again.
Daybreaker goes against everything I believe in. That Twilight or any of us believe in. And she seems to hold more power than me. Able to act while I can only watch helplessly.
Celestia sat in silence for a moment. Deafeningly so. But she flinched upon feeling her sister's wing drape over her comfortingly, and a nuzzle brush against her.
You speak as if you're 2 separate ponies sometimes,
Luna noted.
But remember that you are not, and you are not any less powerful. The difference is the heart, and how it dictates the usage of those powers. My sister saves ponies. Daybreaker would dominate them.
Luna gave a sigh of her own.
When I was Nightmare Moon, it took my defeat to make me realize my folly. To even consider a reconciliation where I once thought there was none to be had. My heart had blackened to nearly the point of no return before Twilight Sparkle. But you? Your heart did not descend that far, and you relented the moment the harm you would cause was clear. It doesn't change the fact that just for a moment, I wanted that autonomous world.
Celestia replied.
That I actually considered it to be the just option, despite its horrific nature. Then let that knowledge ensure it never happens,
Luna encouraged.
And allow for a better one that Twilight can return to when this is all over. She's right, Auntie Celestia,
Cadence stated in agreement.
What happened back there can stay between us. Let's just go home. Hawanique speaks truthfully,
Luna announced, withdrawing her wing and looking up at the sky.
No changelings are here, but that may soon change. Let us return to Canalot with haste to plan our next move.
Celestia looked towards her fellow Alicorn princesses, her features mixing relief and a proudness for both of them. The fire was gone, and with it, so was Daybreaker. What happened had happened, but it was past. She would still give her being to free Twilight. But she would do it as Princess Celestia.
Very well. Cadence, Luna, let's go home.